cannabis company. We actually started in the farmers market. We've had a commercial kitchen since 2012, doing things for like Oklahoma Food Co-op, which is closed down now, and then some of the farmers markets in the city, and Shawnee as well. But we kind of started there, and then when 788 passed, me and Melinda are on the phone like, okay, we've got Mittie's kitchen, now it's time for Mittie's Medicinals. You know, cannabis has been a big part of our lives for a really long time. I've been around it my whole life, and Melinda as well. And so we knew when this was coming on the ballot, like, we've got to get in this, and we want to represent it in a full medicinal value. Mm-hmm. Like, we want to get in it not for a recreational, not for any of that. We want to get in it to really show people what can be done with cannabis, and what it can be done in substitute of a lot of things that negatively affect us, such as alcoholism and opioids, things like that. So we kind of just got the ball rolling. You know, we already had the commercial kitchen, so it was kind of easy. We like pulled together some savings and got our licenses, and I think we started early 2019. So it was not too long after 788 passed that we were really getting in it.
I love that you all already were established, just like your product alone was already good. And you're like, let's, heighten it a bit and add in some THC. So it's like starting, your foundation has just been so solid. So that's why it's easy for all of this to just transition into it. And I love your product, so that refresher is really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of the refresher, this has been a huge passion of mine. When we started into this, we were making, the gummies and suckers and some of those different things. But for me, it was really personal. It was about finding a product that we could substitute for alcoholism. And I don't know if we want to get delved into that right away, but I come from a really long line of alcoholism. It's been a big part of my life. It's been a big part of my family's life. And I have so many families struggling. Little quick background. My father, he 16 years ago had liver cancer from cirrhosis, from drinking, and he needed a transplant. And we fought really hard, and we struggled to get him to overcome that alcoholism. And he had been denied for transplants, and we fought and because he had to get sober, and they needed to know that he meant it. We're talking about an organ from someone that could benefit another life. Like, they can't just give that away.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we fought really hard for that, and I wanted to find something. I knew a big struggle for him was socialization. Being able to go out and socialize and not drink. Coming home from work after a really hard day and not drink. Those were some of those habits. Those constant, like, that's when you pick up a drink. And my mom is also the same way. My mom has been an alcoholic for 33 years. And I knew I still had a long battle with her in trying to get her sober. And so I thought, God, how do I get this THC, this full spectrum, not distill it, full spectrum medicinal cannabis into a beverage, into a portable beverage, like something that we could get and we could just take anywhere. It's discreet. You can do so much with it. Like, how do I do that? And I sat there, I spent hours, like thousands of hours researching in the food and beverage market, because, emulsions are something that happen every day. There's always in there. If you've got like orange, you've got orange oil, they've got to figure out they got to mold that. So I started doing a lot of research and trying to figure out how to do that, and a lot of R&D. And then I hit it. Got it.
Yes.
And I thought, okay, I think I'm onto something. And I just kind of started playing around with it, and we sat around, tossed around ideas. We were just brainstorming, like, what do we do? How many flavors do we do? How do we do this?
Yes.
And we actually started out with an immunity blend, which had elderberry and vitamin C in it as well.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we started, was this elderberry vitamin C.
That's perfect, because everybody's loving the elderberry, and of course everybody wants that, and that boost in their immunity. So when it's coming out in 2019. That was perfect, because everybody's
then we get to 2020, and we're like, give me all the elderberry.
Yeah.
But so hold on 1 second here.
Oh, you're fine.
Oh, yeah.
Just take those off if you want. It's fine.
I don't know. I kind of want to hear myself in here. But this has just kind of been an evolution of that. I don't know where we want to go with this and like
Well,
talk
I mean,
about
I'd
it.
love to see the one here, the one that you started off with.
Yeah.
So that's the
So
elderberry?
show the camera there. This is what they look like. It's really convenient and it's thin.
You can put them in anything.
Yeah, you can take this and you just rip it off and you can put it into anything.
Yeah.
Pretty much. What about what if you were to put this into? Does it matter if it's cold or hot?
No. No, so
That's
actually,
perfect.
this one right here is Pure Mary Jane. It's unflavored, unsweetened, and it's great with coffee. So
Ooh.
my little iced coffee this morning.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. I like
But hot coffee, iced coffee, any of that, that's kind of our purpose for this one. Hot tea, different things like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of these, the elderberry one, Immunity, a lot of people do use this one in like hot tea. You know, in
Okay.
the evening time, they
Yeah.
put it in some hot tea before they go to bed. And but all of these, I mean, we make can of mocktails over the summer. I'm like, mojitos, you know? So it's like watermelon mojitos, mango mojitos. Ooh, I make a mango mule with this. Ooh.
I
Yes.
freaking love mango. Anything that has mango
awesome.
in it, I am down.
Yeah.
Especially when you're able to like recreate cocktails and just still have like the little fizz to it by using the seltzers
Yeah.
and then adding the THC. It's like, you know, drinking became like a social thing, of course, but it's like everybody doesn't want to drink. As that's what your product is here for, is to mitigate all of that, and just that way you don't feel left out. Because either way, society is like, oh, if you're not doing this, then blah, blah. So it's like,
And it
Yeah.
breaks some of those anxiety barriers and for a lot of us too. You know, we're at a social event and you don't drink and you kind of feel awkward and you kind of
Yes.
feel left out. And you pull this out of your pocket and you get your red Solo cup and you mix
Yeah.
it up with whatever
Right.
you want. And then you feel, you know, it helps take that edge away and
The
you feel like you could be a
inhibitions.
part of
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Lower with that like it does with alcohol.
Yes. So the great thing is we use a nano-emulsion technology, and so it hits faster. You get that higher rate of absorption as well.
Right, right. But see, the thing about this is like people will talk about inhibitions being dropped and things like that. That's a negative thing. Too, I've heard that because what are people going to do whenever they're at parties and things like that and their inhibitions drop too much? This isn't like alcohol. Where you continue to drink and drink and drink and poison yourself until you are blacked out
So-
and doing things that
Yes.
you don't need to be doing.
yes.
This is this started out from a medicinal thing, which is great, and it's flourished into this thing where people can actually communicate with one another, have fun, but it's not like this party thing
Yes.
where you're going to drink a whole bunch of it, see how much you can drink, and
Yeah.
get into all this trouble.
Yes.
That's what I like about your product.
And one of the great things is, with alcoholism, you have such a high risk of binging, which leads to, death, major injury, and stuff.
Yeah.
With cannabis, you're not going to have that risk of death.
Yes.
It also, you have a lot less, there's a lot less drug interaction. So you don't have those risk of drug interaction. I mean, how many people do we know that are on some kind of prescription medicine and have some kind of adverse effect? And not only does that, but it also helps you. It helps alleviate some of your pain. It helps enhance your moods. It does so many really great things for you. And we don't make really high doses. So that's not what we're really here for. It's 20 milligrams. But people have to remember it's a higher bioavailability. So you're getting more of that 20 milligrams than you are in an edible or such. And it's going to absorb and it's going to a lot more faster acting.
Yeah.
So it has it's that a bit availability after that first pass. Instead of it just being stopped there, it's able to drive more in. And I've been I've been wanting to know more about that nanotechnology too, and like how it's been integrated in all the products to make it better. Can you tell me a little bit about more so of the nano? Because I would love to know like how that helps with driving it into your bioavailability, your bloodstream, all that jazz.
So we all know oil and water don't mix
Yeah.
very well. But so you have to, there's several different products that you can use that are emulsifiers and surfactants. And we use a technology that breaks these pieces of oil into little tiny itty bitty particles. And then we use these surfactants and different emulsifiers that actually encapsulate that and help keep them separated. And so when you have those itty bitty little tiny nanoparticles, those get into your blood a lot easier. So these are not actually, what you can't really call them they're more like water compatible.
Okay,
You know what
not
I mean?
water soluble, more
They're
water
more water
compatible.
compatible.
Okay,
You know,
I got
so
ya.
it's not that, you know, they don't actually dissolve into
Yeah,
water,
yeah.
but they're water compatible.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
there's a lot of misconceptions there sometimes
Yeah.
with that. But these are more water compatible. And we also, I'll tell you, these are sugar free as well. We use stevia. Yes. I needed to throw that in there
I
real quick.
know, I love it.
But so the nano emulsion technology, and I mean, there's different ways you can do this. You know, there's several different methods. It's really like secretive, you know. And I get in there, and people are like, "Oh, you did this yourself?" And I'm like, "Yes, I did." You know?
Proprietary information.
Yeah,
Don't worry
yeah.
about it.
And you know, I find, and you know, there's things out there on the market like pre-made emulsifiers, and different companies have these different products. And I've tried so many, but I came up with a blend that was safe and taste well, and man, it just worked out. You know, but really, so, and I'll kind of get back into, we tested this with my mom. Okay, like I said, my mom has been an alcoholic, and she was really my, like, if this is real and this is gonna work, like, I'm gonna find out, you know. And so I really talked to my mom about, Mom, I'd like to see you try this. Like, let's get
Yeah.
your card. Let's get your card. Let's see what we can do. And so she was like, okay. She was really nervous, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, because she's only known the drink for a long time. I mean, she has drank for a long time.
That and just cannabis always has that negative, like, oh my God, if you're doing cannabis, you're doing drugs. And it's like, no,
Yes.
it's medicinal. And it's just
Yes.
getting past that hurdle in your brain that it's not a drug, it is medicine.
Yeah. And for my mom, you know, her big thing was like, she's one of those that comes home from a long day and she just really wants a drink because she's got a lot of medical problems anyways, and sleep is a huge issue for her. And, you know, my mom never really admitted she was an alcoholic. You know, it's not until she actually got sober that she really started to admit that she was an alcoholic, and really started like seeing some of the things, and, you know, like relationships that were tarnished, and, you know, jobs that were lost, and, you know, these, you know, all these things. And she's like, I didn't see that. She was so consumed with alcoholism, she didn't see that. I actually have this really amazing quote that she gave me that I'd like, do you mind if I read that to you guys?
No.
Oh, yeah,
Please.
please.
Let me grab it.
Yeah, it's amazing what alcohol can do to a person over time. And
Yeah.
whenever you do stop and you do look back, you're like, wow, I really was different. And
Yeah.
all that time you're telling yourself you weren't. And anyway.
Yeah, so my mom, you know, she, one of the reasons, and I'll tell you, so I asked her, I was like, I need a quote. Like, give me something, you know, because this is, and she said, refreshers gave me the freedom from alcohol. It gave me the mental clarity to see how negatively it was affecting my life, my relationships, and more importantly, me. I never used to admit I was an alcoholic, and it was so shameful to hear the things I did or my grandchildren saw when I was intoxicated that I didn't even remember. Cannabis allows me to be a part of my family's lives without the shame and embarrassment. It's brought out a person in me that I love much more. It's saved my life. You know, and that's my mom's, you know, and as of May 6th, she's 1 year sober.
Good for her.
You know,
Love
and
it,
she says she
yes.
doesn't even, you know, and it's not a fix-all for everybody, you know, but it's given her that opportunity to live a new life.
Yes.
You know, so many relationships have been sabotaged. And, you know, I remember one day my daughter coming home from her house, and she was just so upset. And my mom had got really intoxicated. She had mixed some medications, and my daughter thought she was dying, you know, and she was so terrified she didn't want to go back. And that was like a really breaking moment for me and my mom. And I'm like, listen, this right here,
Yeah.
this is your next go-to.
Yeah.
Like, we're not picking this bottle up anymore. We're picking up a refresher, and we're making a drink. And she sleeps better, and her doctors are like, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been a big deal for us. And there's so many other people, you know, my sister-in-law, you know, she drank real heavy, and she recently had a baby, and she hasn't gone back to it. You know, she's picked up the refreshers, and she's like, I don't even want to drink.
That's awesome.
You know, she loves who she is, and
Yeah.
she can remember, and we wake up the next day and we
Yeah.
feel fantastic.
Yes, the
you
mental
know?
clarity is there. You don't
My-
feel bogged down
My
by
husband
all of
had
it.
gone to one of the river trips, you know, and everybody's wasted, and
Yeah.
the next morning, and everybody's like 10 and people are waking my husband's up at 6 fishing like
Yeah,
y'all
like having a
missing
cup of
out.
coffee, like how's it
Y'all
going?
missing out, smoking a blunt, fishing a little. I feel great.
Right?
You know, everybody else is all hungover.
They're like, don't talk to me till 1.
You're enjoying the sunrise. You know,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, and you miss out on that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. That's
And
awesome for him.
It is, and it's just, you know, God, man, I want to help more people. I
Yeah.
want more people to feel this way. You know, I want more people to have the, you know, this backup in there when they get out there and they can just toss this in there. And like I said, it's not a high dose, but it's something that, like a beer, you know, you could drink it, have another one a little later if you wanted to. You know, it goes through your body kind of about like alcohol, the absorption, and kind of runs through your system. So I mean, it doesn't last for a long time. And I tell people it's not like, oh man, I'm stoned. It's like, man, I feel good.
Yeah.
It
You know?
relaxes
Yeah, I
more
like
so on the
that.
body than having a headache
So-
to it.
And with that absorption, you know, you're getting it into other places. You're opening up them CB1 receptors, them CB2 receptors. You know,
Yeah.
you're getting it all through there.
Yeah.
And that's a fantastic thing about that. And, you know, my mother-in-law's actually getting ready to go through some chemo and some radiation and stuff. And she was, you know, we've been talking to her about RSO and some of those other cannabis alternatives.
Yeah.
And she was all worried. She read this article on Leafly about not being able to consume, you know, during chemo. And really what they were talking about is actually during chemo.
Yeah.
When you're actually getting a treatment, they tell you not to have like edibles or anything processed through your liver because that's really hard on your
Yeah.
liver when you're processing chemo as well. And so she calls me and she's like, oh gosh, you know, I don't know if I, and I'm like, listen, but they do recommend other things when you're doing, like, this is perfect because it's not processed through your liver, you know, and like smoking, you know, you could smoke, you could have this. And so I'm like, we've got alternatives. It'll be okay. Like, we can alleviate some of that pain.
Yeah.
You know, we can alleviate some of that nausea from your chemo without taking an edible or something that's going to process through your liver.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's just really great alternatives to this. And there's a lot of other products that are really great on the market in the drink. But this one's a little more portable. A little more discreet if you want to be a little more discreet. Maybe you're going to like a family function.
Well, you have a whole variety there.
Yes.
And I like that too. It's
Yeah.
not just, you know, one or two choices. You
Yeah.
have a whole variety.
And there's so many more possibilities, like snow cones.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for the snow cone one for sure.
I mean, all of these.
Oh, yeah.
I like to like put mine in like a fizzy drink.
Yes.
And have it. 'Cause
My
I
husband
just
likes
I
his
love the
in
fizzy.
Gatorade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's how many different.
We kind of got like the color of the rainbow, you know, a little bit of it all.
I know, and then you just started off with the basics, like the basic flavoring to move
Yeah.
forward to see what the market looks like.
And we've come full circle. It's kind of funny, you know, we started these off in like these 4-ounce bottles. You know, everybody's got these bottles, you know.
Yeah.
So we started off in these 4-ounce bottles and they just weren't moving. And we're like, okay, maybe I need to go single serve. Let me get it to them at a lower price. You know, let me get it to them.
Yeah.
And now we have dispensaries requesting a bigger bottle. And I'm like,
It never fails.
Hey, wouldn't it be nice one day if we could, well, never mind. I was going to say serve them in bars, but we don't want to.
Yeah.
you know, but maybe, you know, why can't there be that? Why can't there be those establishments that we can consume responsibly?
Yeah.
You know, and not.
No, I'm talking about mixing the two.
Yes.
You know, it's
Yeah.
a little-
No, I don't really.
it's
I'm
fun,
trying to get
but-
away from alcohol. We don't have to mix it. We can make all the
Yeah.
can of mocktails to make you feel beautiful.
Right.
Have a whole
so
cannabis
with this
lounge.
product, it's
Yeah.
a little bit different. I mean, you're talking about a medicinal thing. You're talking about people that are having issues with alcoholism.
Yeah.
And so in that environment, it may not fit correctly is what I'm trying to say.
You know, I have a lot of people. There's an influencer, and he's a huge advocate of these. I don't know if you guys know DC Live.
Yeah.
So he's a huge advocate of these. And I'm sure he won't mind me saying this because this is, like, he says this is his drink, you know, the
Oh,
official
that's
drink
awesome.
of DC
Yeah.
Live. But, you know, and I've talked to him a lot about this as well. And that's something that he, you know, I'm sure he'll be okay with me saying, but he takes these everywhere he goes.
Good.
You know, because he
Yeah.
can still socialize with people, and that's what I want. You know, that's what I love about this
Yeah.
is being able to do that.
The thing is I watch him And I'm like, what is he drinking? Because he's got all this energy and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, give me some of that then. If that's what he's carrying around, I want some of that.
Yeah, we
like
need our
that
pick
guy.
me
That
up.
guy inspires me.
Yeah.
So
he's
you
very
know,
passionate.
Yeah.
And I think some people mistake his passion sometimes for like aggression.
Me too.
But I get amped up. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I think anybody that does advocation, I mean, gosh, we wouldn't be here without that.
You
Yeah.
gotta get pissed at some point.
Yeah.
Right?
We wouldn't be here without the advocates of 788 and everybody, you know. And that's, you know, that's the thing we're here. I'm so blessed to be able to be in this industry.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a tax accountant. You know, I don't have some big like mad chemist, you know, kind of like experience. We come from like real wholesome, you know, roots. You know, I grew up with this, you know, I've seen it, you know, growing up, people would be in DARE class, you know, and they're all talking about, oh, these drugs are so terrible.
And then marijuana's the gateway to all
the
of
gateway
it.
to drugs. And I'm like, dang, half my family, they got jobs, good jobs, you know, they're some of the chillest people I've ever been around. Like, I'm growing up thinking, man, who are these druggies they're talking about? Because I've not met them yet, you know?
You really live in this cookie cutter, like, okay, I'm supposed to act like this and say this. And it's so ridiculous.
Oh, man,
Our entire society almost is like this. And this is where I get passionate and I start going off. Because it makes me so mad that people consider to themselves that they're playing a role in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're playing a role in a movie. Why don't you just be yourself?
Yeah.
Instead of, I mean, really, do you know that marijuana is the gateway? I can't do it. I can't do it. Oh, Lord.
It's the gateway to creativity.
It's the gateway
and
to
opening your
happiness,
mind.
Okay,
you know?
so I've
I mean, that's my
sat
gateway
through
to a good day.
some of those meetings, and it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they really are misguided.
Yeah.
But I understand where the point is. Of course, you know, they're talking about like people that have been, you know, killed and things like that from drunk drivers and things like that. Of course, that's but the education of how we get there and the gateway to get there is just wrong.
Yeah.
We need to flip-flop everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and another thing, you know, I was talking on the phone to Tara when we were talking about doing this, and she had brought up a really great point about it's okay for us to walk around with our wine shirts. It's okay for us moms to go into the school and be like, wine time, you know, all of that. But if I was to wear a cannabis shirt in there, it's like, ooh,
Yeah, you get scuffed at and you're like, oh my
goodness. I'll tell you, I got some of the happiest children. Some of the happiest children. We have a great open life. You know, I communicate. My kids know about this. You know, I don't hide this. It was never hidden from me. I educate my children. You know?
It starts with education at the end of the day.
And it's not, and they know, you know, they know. And in my daughters, my niece, we were driving, and there was like some abandoned houses, and they're like, probably some drunks in there. And I'm like, now, don't start that. You know, you know, but they think like the totally different. They think like
opposite.
alcohol is like, that's the gateway. You know, it's not for them. And actually, my husband, when we first started dating, he actually kicked me out of his house one time for defending Montel Williams for using cannabis. And here we are, fast forward years later, and I mean, cannabis is a huge part of his life. He's found it to help a lot with his anxieties and, you know, so much stuff that sometimes the medication, he still takes some of his pharmaceuticals because he needs them. But this is just like extra, you know, and it really helps him. It helps him on those really bad days. And I mean, this is his, you know, he comes home, he goes kayaking, he takes these, puts them in his Gatorade, you know, we go to the river, anywhere we go, we don't need booze anymore.
That's great.
You know?
And you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
You don't have to, you know, I remember those days of going camping. Yeah, I remember those days of going camping and, you know, traveling somewhere, and the first thing that you need to do is figure out where the alcohol is.
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
You know, that is so, it's like smokers talk about, like the things that they'll do to smoke, cigarettes, they'll stand outside in the freezing cold or whatever. The things that you do for alcohol, lose your family, lots of things like that, it's much worse. So
Yeah.
thank you for what you're doing.
My
Seriously.
dad's really lucky I'm a Taurus, and I'm stubborn as hell. Because if I wasn't, man, I would have left him on the street a long time ago. You know, because he put me through some hell. I got some really great gray hairs, and they did not come from my children. They came from my father. You know, and he's passed away, and I got 10 years post-transplant. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more beautiful than watching a life renewed through transplant.
Yeah.
You know, the man who gave his life for my father was a firefighter, and down there in Texas, and he was helping his church and fell off the ladder and left behind his wife. And those things, like, there's so much meaning behind that. And my dad, you know, after that, he knew he could never go back.
Yeah.
He could never go back. He got a gift that most will never get, and he couldn't go back to that. You know, and so I was so thankful he got a C788 pass. You know, when it first passed, we took him to a dispensary after he got his card, and he's looking around like, you sure we can do this? You know, and I'm like, come on, Dad, you know? And he's like, you sure
I'm like, are you sure this is legal? Like, you got your card. It's legal.
Somebody's going to get me if I come out of here with it. You know, and then he went back like every day for the next week, you know, and he ended up hanging out, you know, all the time at the different dispensaries and stuff, and I was really glad he got to see that. But, you know, I didn't get to save him with these, but I've saved my mom.
Yes.
And there's so many other people that have benefited from this as well. And I hope that we can continue to help people. I hope that I can get this product and we really try to keep things affordable, you know, because I know how hard it is without insurance. You know, I know, you know, we don't get insurance coverage on this, you know, and it's got to come from that little bit of excess money that we all maybe have. You know, it's like you see the fluctuations in the market when you got back to school, when you've got holidays, you know, sales are down because we're not taking this out of our kids' pockets. We're not taking this out of our kids' mouth. They're not using the money out of our kids' mouth for cannabis because you can see that in the sales. Because when there's holidays, when there's back to school, the sales are down because those people know that they got to take care of their family first. You know, and that's a big misconception in the cannabis, you know, with cannabis is people think, oh, you know, they're doing that and they're mistreating their kids and they're this. No, they're not.
You just, again, going back to it's that education, you have to put forth that effort to educate, even though it might seem like it's just going through one ear out the other. As long as you're still being adamant and you're telling your truths, then that's when things start to open up more so, and people's eyes actually start to open.
And I'll be real honest with you, you know, like I said, I've been a tax accountant, and I actually, they don't know that I have this business, and I hate that they don't know. But I also, there's so much stigma, and it's hard. I mean, I even struggle with becoming public about it, but then I'm like, why?
Is it because you're in just a smaller community? I mean, because...
Yeah, I'm from here, and, you know, it's like when you're involved in the school activities, and you're involved in those different things, it's a little harder, you know, and it's been harder for me, and I'm so, I'm almost kind of ashamed of myself for hiding. You know, I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of that because I see what good it does, and I feel like me hiding from some of the people in the public in this, I'm adding to that damn stigma. I'm not helping the situation.
But what you're doing in the meantime outweighs that 100-fold.
Yeah.
So you should never feel guilty about that. That's what you've grown up with. That's the society. That's things that you cannot change.
Yeah.
It's breaking
But
that
what you
cycle
are-
in your
yeah.
head. It's breaking through that barrier, because a lot of people, especially just parents alone, they do feel like they are having to be trapped in that closet just for the simple fact society told them they had to.
Yes.
Either you're going to be in this closet and being a good Samaritan like you're supposed to be, or you're going to be drugged out in your closet with some cannabis. But that's not the case. Like, that is not the case whatsoever.
I'm a better human being.
And that's what people's mindsets are. And it's like telling them, look here, read this article, and then I'm going to tell you exactly how all these terpenes work synergistically with your body. So it's just, is that education?
It really is, you know, and I mean, coming from tax accountant, I mean, that's a stressful, you know.
I wouldn't be able to do
that. I mean, these last couple years through this, I mean, it has been, you know, the tax world's been hell. And so I come home and I can shut it off. You know, I can just let it go. I can be a mom. I can be a wife. I can be a daughter. I can let that go. And that's what cannabis does for me. You know, my favorite go-to drink when I get home is what I call refresher sunrise. And I take this black cherry chill, ginger ale, and orange juice. And that's my...
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
Mama's had a long day.
I got some ginger ale at home. I need to go and get me some orange juice.
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of I've had a really long day kind of deal, you know? Yeah. And my kids are like... Mama, you had that refresher yet?
Like, you know, you stressed. Have you decompressed yet?
You know, but it does it, you know, and I've really been trying, you know, to spend more time with them, you know, and educate them and things like that.
Yes.
And so, you know, sit out there and have a drink and they're like, you know, I've got this really great relationship with my kids now. And my older kids are off in college now. And so when we started the business, I told my older kids, I was like, okay, guys. So that's been really awesome to have that freedom too. And, you know, now that I've left basically kind of left my tax firm, I get to do this all the time. And I'm ready to start really advocating and kind of getting out there and helping share what this has done for me, what this has done for my family, and what this can do for other people. Yeah. You know, I can't tell you that it's the cure-all. We all know it's not the cure-all.
Sure.
Yeah. We all know that these can be abused. Yeah. Everybody knows that anything can be misused. So, I mean, there are still things out there. But this could be that stepping stone for that person that's like, okay, I just need a drink. I just need a drink. Absolutely. I just need a drink today.
Just get past it.
Yeah, just getting past it.
And that was my mom, you know, it was just getting past that, you know, that first initial like, ooh, gotta have that. You know, I need to take this edge off.
Because it's been so ingrained. It's like that motor memory. It's like, okay, well, I need it.
She comes from a long line of alcoholism too, you know. I mean, and we're trying to break this cycle.
Yes.
And man, I don't even have the words sometimes, you know, for the things that it has done in our lives. Yeah. And I know, like, there's so many more people out there that can relate to that.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot more people out there that struggle with alcoholism. And, you know, and most people will be like, oh, you can't just replace one with the other. Yeah, you can.
You can.
Yeah, you definitely can.
And it's funny, too. It's like...
Because it's not replacing it. My mom she doesn't have to have one of these every day. She doesn't have to have one every day.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's other benefits along with it.
Because it's still working with your body after the fact. It's not just, oh, you're consuming this cannabis and it's just one and done. It's like those cannabinoids are still working in your body for you. So, like you said, when your mother only doesn't have to take it every day, it's because she's still feeling the medicine working within.
Yeah, and you talked about synergy, and you know that's something that also full spectrum is something that more education needs done about. You know, in this market, everybody got in really quick. You know, as everybody getting in there to distill it, you know, it's cheaper and things like that. And we've really stuck to full spectrum. We started out rosin pressing. Had I known that rosin was going to be so highly prized a couple years later, I'm like,
oh, yeah.
But we started out there, you know, and we, like, hard labor. You know, Melinda's husband, Dan, he's the best thing rosin presser we ever had, and that man had it down. And, you know, we just worked our little, but we outpaced rosin pressing, you know, like, we really outpaced that. And so I really searched. I was like, I'm not using distilled. I'm not doing it. You know, I need all those cannabinoids. I need, you know, I want the CBN, the CBG, you know, I want all of that in there. The THCA has phenomenal benefits, you know, and all the terpenes. So I wanted all of that. And so we actually reached out, ended up using bison extracts. You know, they have a really great CO2 extraction process. Yeah.
Okay.
And they add back the native terpenes. The terpenes that come, it separates them, but the actual terpenes that came from that flower, they add back. So they're not, you know, like other botanical terpenes. They're the actual terpenes from that flower. Okay. And it's add back. So they have a really fantastic process, and we use them. And, you know, I just go into so many dispensaries sometimes and they're like, what's full spectrum?
There is a lot of misconception and a lot of misconstruity of full spectrum, broad spectrum, distillate, isolate, all that jazz. But that's like, hey guys, just read the book. And it's like,
Well,
or we could have like a
or listen to
seminar,
us.
you know, just listen, you know, this is this, this is this, this is this. But sometimes there also needs to be like certain seminars that are free to the public in order to have that type of education, because it has come to our attention that it's like a lot of people just don't have the funds in order to like go off to a whole seminar and learn every single
Yes.
thing
Sure.
that is within the cannabis community and that can benefit and work for them. So it's like it takes those advocates to actually start having those seminars and
It
start
takes
teaching them.
conversations
Yeah.
like we're having.
Right.
Like this
Yeah.
is what people are listening to, going, oh wow, these are real life people. This is not just somebody in a book that we don't know that's writing the story.
Yeah.
You know, that says they're a doctor. Like we're real people
Yeah.
in this industry. We're not just in this industry. We're patients first.
Yes.
But we also know, I mean, on our side of things, we know that people want that education because we've been giving that education from day one on the Herbage side of things. And whenever we don't in one of our issues or something, it never fails. I get emails or comments.
People get thrown off.
saying, well, why don't you add more stuff about how or what this is? And I always say, well, we have been. And so we go ahead and put it back in, but it's like, that tells you right there. People want to know
Oh, yeah.
what they're doing or what they're putting into their body.
Ask us, you know, what's the difference if I have this or maybe I have an edible, and you have to explain, you know, explaining to them about the process of
How
you
it's
know,
broken down in your
breaks
body.
down, goes
Yeah.
through your system, gets turned into 11-hydroxy
Sure.
THC. You know, you got to go through that whole process, so it takes longer and it's a little more of a gamble because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, is this
You
going
know,
to be enough? Is this
exactly.
going to be too much?
Right,
You know,
right.
but with this too, it's like it's a faster onset. So even if sometimes I will, you know, like if I'm going to take an edible, I'll smoke and I'll take my edible and then I'll smoke to give me kind of that,
That
you know, like
tirade.
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of get
Yeah.
that off and give me that time.
Yeah.
But with this, I can just, boom, there it is, you know, having an anxiety attack. Here we go. You know,
Oh,
you can
I
drink
got-
that and get a little
okay. I
faster.
gotta carry some of these around.
You do.
Oh yeah, yeah. me
This
too.
should be in your pocket all the time.
All the
like I'm
time.
gonna need you to carry a bigger wallet so you can just like stick this in one side of it, you know?
Do you have instead of
It's like if you don't have the condoms, we just
See?
got got
Yeah,
the
there you go.
refresher in
I'll
there,
see,
you know?
I got my protection here. No, I'll call DC and be like, hey man, what do you carry yours in?
your pro stash?
Yeah.
there you go.
Do you
My
have
car, my purse, no.
do you have like smaller like packages where people it's like say they don't want like the full 20 milligrams but they want to go throughout their day and have like you know that anxiety release, so like 5 milligrams is sometimes like microdosing is better for some, so do you have like packages that can microdose up until it?
So we don't with the refreshers. I mean, we do offer microdosing. We have microdosing hard candies and microdosing gummies because that's also something really important to us, especially those people coming off Xanax and Valiums, you know, to give them just that little edge throughout the day. Pop a little gummy or hard candy and just kind of help moderate you through the day.
Yeah.
But what I recommend to some people that want a smaller dose is get a 32-ounce drink. You know, put it in there,
Oh yeah, dilute
drink on it.
more.
Dilute it.
Yeah, slowly
Okay.
drink on it through the day.
Sure.
You know, I know some that will like put it in a water bottle and they just kind of drink a little bit of it here, there, and throughout the
Okay.
day. So I mean, more of like a moderation with it,
Mm-hmm.
more of like using it and just kind of drink it. Now I put it in here and I'm like, my coffee can't sit all day.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna have to have the whole thing.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can do. Some people will like. My sister-in-law, she likes 10 milligrams. That's about where she's at. She pours a little bit in there, hopes that it's close to half. You know, if it's not, she's
Save
like,
the rest for
"Woo!"
later.
Little
Yeah, so
dash
some
in
things
here,
like
little-
that. But that's kind of my recommendation for people that are wanting to kind of microdose throughout the day or manage through the day. I ran into an artist one day and she was like, this is your product. I've been using this. She was like, I stick it in my water bottle. I'll drink about a quarter of it. A little bit later, I'll come back to that bottle, drink a quarter of it, and kind of go throughout the day.
Okay.
And I do that sometimes myself. I'll put it in the refrigerator, you know, and I've got it marked, and my kids know. You know, my kids are like, is this medicated or
Yeah, it's
non-medicated?
like, can I have it or not?
Medicated, non-medicated.
Yeah.
I'm like, if it's ever in this cup right here, you know,
Do
'cause
not
we gotta
touch
be
it.
responsible. You
Yeah.
know, if I've got it, I'm like, if it's in this cup, don't you dare touch
Yeah,
it.
do
Don't
not
touch
touch
it.
it.
You don't got a card.
Yeah,
Right.
like you do not touch it.
We'll talk about this later. You don't
Yeah.
really have any need for it right now,
Right.
but
Yeah, yeah,
we'll talk about this later.
Yes.
But you know, I always try to be very like open and educate my kids about it.
Sure.
And that's
sure.
that's the step towards a brighter future, especially for the kiddos, because
Yeah.
it's like again, it's just telling them it's getting away from that reefer madness again, and just letting them know like it's okay, but also be responsible in whatever you do.
Yeah.
Instead of just like, oh, it's the weed, and it's like, no, like be responsible, please.
And I
And
think
it's like, no.
you mentioned, the kids, and we talk about kids. I think that's probably some of my fear too. Is I don't want my kids to lose friends because their parents are uneducated about it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I'm like, there'll be, that's more of it. It's probably more of the fear for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is for my kids.
Yes.
Because I don't want them to be like, oh, well, you can't go over there because her mom is a marijuana
Yeah,
smoker.
and that's where it starts. I mean, that's where it's always started.
Yeah.
I mean, some of us as kids, that smoked, that wound up smoking and gathering together. It's because of that.
Yeah.
It's because of those parents told them that some of us were bad kids,
Yeah.
and that continues with
Yeah,
politics and everything else.
It does. And that sucks because I'd never do that in front of your children.
No.
You know what I mean? I would never disrespect anybody or disrespect their boundaries or, any of that. Like when kids have friends over, that's something that they're never going to know about, because I'm going to have respect for that parent and respect for them as well. Like I'd never do that, but I also don't want my kids to have to suffer from that because I'm like, if I could educate every one of their,
Like that'd be ideal. But a lot of people are pretty stubborn still.
Yeah,
so.
but I've ran into people that are curious, I mean, very like God-fearing people that were raised, this is not right. And I've ran into so many of those people that want to know.
Yeah, but
They
too
wanna
afraid to
know.
ask.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's okay. I'll just sit right next to you. Let's talk.
And me, I'm like an elm.
Hey, come over here.
Let me talk to you.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, we talk about like society and all of that, and I equate a lot of things to music and film or movies or whatever. But you think about all these movies, and you think about the alcoholic dad, and you think about the alcohol portion of movies, and it's always like kids are scared of it. Kids are scared of whenever their dad is going to drink or something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
I have not encountered that in the cannabis community. So people that do not watch movies that tell the truth about society and do not know about the cannabis community, it's not like that.
I'm not going to have a refresher and go on a tirade and,
It's
You're not going to go on a bender.
no,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to go and like verbally abuse my children and this because I'm drunk and I don't know what I'm telling, you know what I mean? And then wake up the next morning and not remember it happened, but that kid remembers that.
Yeah.
Because I know that. My dad was a fully functional alcoholic. He got up and went to work every day, but by God, the moment he got off work, he was at the gas station. He had a 40 wrapped in a brown paper bag and he had a case in the back.
That's right.
And he picked me up and drank it the whole way home.
That's right.
I learned how to drive at 11 years old. Don't get me wrong, my dad was a fantastic dad. He took care of me. But I learned how to drive at 11 years old because I was so terrified. Every time we went somewhere, my dad was so intoxicated and I was terrified to go home with him. So I learned how to drive. And I can't tell you how many times I drove him home. Just because I wanted to make sure not only did my dad get home safe, but I wanted to get home safe.
Yeah.
I wanted my little brothers to get home safe.
Yeah.
And it's very unfortunate. And I don't see that with cannabis.
No, I don't. And we see things like you said about your kid. Have you had your relaxer yet? They look forward to it.
My kids love
it's
it.
not like they're hiding it away from him behind a curtain. No, she's gonna drink her relaxer.
Refresher.
A refresher. It's like they want that. They see the benefits of it because
They
you're
see
a
it
better
helping.
person. You're like, it's calming. It's medically beneficial,
Yeah.
and it's not poison.
And I'll tell you, some
love
of my
it.
favorite strains that have like limonene and
I love the
yes,
limonene.
pinene, things like that. That's like my philosophical kind of mode. That's like when I talk to my kids, like I'm like, let me get some gelato or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let me get this in me real quick. We'll talk about life.
Yeah, let's sit down here in a minute.
My older two kids, I adopted about, I guess it's been 6 years now. Their father passed away from cancer. And I adopted them, and they grew up in a really kind of strict environment, a very sheltered environment, extremely sheltered environment. And they never felt freely that they could talk to their dad, about different things. And my oldest came out of, she went to college, and she came home, and she's like, I'm not really sure how to tell you this, but I don't necessarily think I want to be with a man. And I'm like, okay, cool. And she's like, what?
Like, wait a minute. What just happened? Did you
And I'm
hear
like,
me right?
let me get some gelato in me real quick. And we're going to sit down and talk about life. And we're going to talk about how, important it is for you to figure out who you are and how that's okay.
Yes.
And so I get, and we sit down and have these big, huge, brainy conversations that get real deep,
Yes.
and they're like, wow, I never would have felt free. She tells me, I never could have been free to talk to my dad about this. But to me, it helps me communicate with my kids and have these conversations that are really tough to have.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It really does.
And I could get on a whole spiel about mental health, mental health. And I lost my brother to suicide. It's going to be 11 years this month.
Oh, gosh,
and
Yeah.
there is a lot that this can do. My brother actually, and I'm sorry to my other siblings if they, but this is not something we hide. But it was the night before his 19th birthday. And he was fussing with his girlfriend, some other stuff going on, and a guy bought him a bottle of whiskey. He drank that entire bottle of whiskey. He was so intoxicated. And I really don't think he would have done this if he wasn't.
Yeah, if he was.
If my brother wasn't as intoxicated as he was and had the fallout that he had, I think he'd be here.
Yeah.
And that's another reason I do this. It's like,
I believe
if
you.
I could have gave him, maybe he could have had a whole bottle of this, and I just see that, and my other brothers see it, and my other brothers struggle, and a lot in the Native American community, because my brothers are Native American, but among all of our family, we see alcoholism so strong in there, and it's like, guys, let's get away from this.
Yes.
Let's get away from this alcoholism. Let's find something. Let's find a healthier alternative. We've got it, and we have access to it, and almost anybody here can get a card.
Yeah.
You can have access to this too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can have access to all of this. And just so many family I've seen, I wish I could have turned back time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like we talked about before, there are things that you can control and there are things that you can't.
Yeah.
But everything that you've done so far has been great.
It's
Trying.
And
leaving
you're touching a lot of people.
Yeah.
very positive mark
Yeah.
on this life.
We really try.
Yeah.
We started and we're still really small. We're a really small family-owned business. And we come with those farmers market values of quality and care. And we're really small. And we have really hesitated in growing really fast because we don't want to lose that. And I don't care for the next big, massive company. I just want to help the people that I can help. And, we've just grown really organically and really slow. And so most people don't. They're like, who the heck is Mittie's Medicinals?
Don't you have some new products coming out too?
Oh.
Like the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We probably should talk about heavy heads, right?
You said you're expanding.
We are.
Yeah.
So now we're really starting to push out some different stuff.
Yeah.
And, we wanted to start catering to... We wanted to start, catering to some of the other aspects. After my dad passed away, Heavy Heads is a new line that's out. And my dad passed away, and Heavy Heads comes from him. Growing up, I would be like, Dad, I want this person to come over. But, my house always smelled like pot and things like that. And he'd be like, oh, what's their last name? And I'm like, oh, it's so-and-so. And he's like, oh, nah, her dad's a heavy head. It's cool. And I'm like, okay. So growing up, I knew, like, if you were a heavy head...
It's
You
like
all
you're
right.
cool
It's
to
awesome.
go.
And we're all heavy heads.
Yeah.
And so we kind of started that line, and one of the first things we did is these canagars. My dad was a huge cigar fan. And so we really wanted to do that. So this is
Wow.
actually 3.5 grams.
Let me see if
Really?
we can-
Yep. There's 3.5 grams in there. It's wrapped in hemp. It's got a glass tip. We've got the bamboo stick, so that helps the flow, the airflow through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you just pull the bamboo stick out, and you kind of light it like you're roasting a marshmallow.
Okay.
So you're not going to directly put it, you kind of take your flame from it and just kind of roast it, get it lit.
Okay.
And it burns super smooth. And because you're not pulling your smoke through the cannabis like you are like a cigarette, you're not pulling it through, you're pulling it through that hole in the middle. You can put it out and pick it back up and light it again, and it still tastes really good.
So you pull the stick out, or you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So if you just kind of, you want to make sure you hold it, don't hold it on the tip, and then you just kind of rotate the stick out.
Okay.
And then you smoke it, and then you use this to put all your other pre-rolls and everything else in when you're going something.
Nice.
We put some stickers in there. Everybody likes some slaps. There's like a little instruction paper in there that kind of cautions you and tells you how to light it, different things like that, kind of educate. I've actually got phone calls. I know I'm getting real close and
I
loud.
love it. And then especially the new the heavy heads, like you said, it reminds me of, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's a Who Funky Monkey and the Boo Fook Moose. It was an old not acid shroom trip of my dad's. They drove like a yellow Volkswagen, an old English Volkswagen in this trip.
No, I got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you were.
You want to go to camera 2?
Oh, there.
Man, you're messing her up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have that. We're getting ready to do some infused one. We actually have a 6-gram one called the Rev. That's after my dad. My dad was ordained. He was kind of like an old hippie minister, He did a lot of weddings. He actually did my wedding a month before his liver transplant. And so the Rev is our 6-grammer. And then we're coming out with Stout, which is infused. It's 3.5 grams flour, 0.5 gram of sugar. And so it's infused. It's stout. The first time I tried it, I was like, whew.
Like,
That's
wait a minute.
stout. And I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, okay,
That's
that's
stout.
a heavy head.
Yeah, I love it.
Man.
This is really cool. I've never seen anything like this on the market too. Like, this is really cool.
Yeah, and the glass tip, you get to keep it, reuse it, clean it out. It'll be like so full of all that resin, and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. I like that. That's nice.
It is very nice.
That's really nice.
So that's one of our new things, and we do other things. We have gummies. Melinda's a gummy queen over there. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to have like a photo shoot of like a crown, because she is the gummy queen, man. That she can put out. And we have a couple ladies from the farmers market that come and work and help us. Man, them ladies got it down.
If you ever need anybody to do that shoot, Jasmine is a photographer.
Okay, that's what we need.
I love doing creative things like that.
Yeah, we need that for sure.
Yes.
And we don't have a big production facility. We don't have that. We've got it was actually Melinda's mother's house, and we converted it to a commercial kitchen, and it's home. That's how it feels. You sit out on the porch. We're on like 10 acres. 10 acres, sit out there, watch the sunrise.
I know.
But I'll tell you, smoke breaks are real nice, because you sit out there on that
peering
front
over
porch,
the vastness.
that breeze comes in, and it's just so fantastic.
That sounds phenomenal.
It doesn't feel like we're going to work.
Well, next time we'll just come out there to your
house. Come out there, we'll sit out on the porch, set it all up, it'll be beautiful. But it's beautiful out there, and I was leaving there the other night and looked up, and it had that beautiful, crescent moon up there, and you could see the stars, and I'm like, man, I get to do this.
Yeah.
I get to do something I'm passionate about, and like, it's so beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm really happy for you. I mean, because you're doing, it's not just that, you're doing good for other people.
Yeah.
There's a purpose.
Yeah.
I hope so.
And it's great.
Definitely.
I hope we can, every time I hear a success story, coming in here to do a pop-up, we had a patient stop, and, he just told me like how much he loved our products, and, and I'm just like, oh, this is why. This is why I had like this huge moment on Instagram, and I had this person add me on add our business on Instagram, and I always try to scroll through and kind of look, and she was like talking about our products, had refreshers all over her page, and I was like, I don't even know her. I don't even know this person. I've never met her, and she's like all about our products, and I made a comment, and she was like, I'm one of your biggest, and I'm like, oh. Those people, like, I know there's, if I could just meet every one of them, wouldn't that be fantastic? But you can't.
You just
it'd be never
I'm
ending.
telling you, if you are a Mitties fan out there, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you. What is the reason we do this. The patients are the reason we do this. We're not doing it for money, because if I was doing it for money, I'd been out of it a long time ago. It's not about that. not take, I'm going to have to start taking my first paycheck from the business now that I've, doing that. And it's not that. Every bit that we do is for the patients. It's not about the money.
It's a bit of a misconception, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
This is a money game.
It's not.
It's a money game for some people, not
Not most of us.
Not for the majority of the people that I know.
They're just trying to pay bills and then, help the patients.
Well, it's
That's
it's a passion.
Yeah.
And there's a reason. There's
Yeah.
a purpose why they're doing it, and those are the people that we want to be involved with and talk to and have on our show.
Yeah.
And really highlight. And so we're very happy that you were here.
Yes.
And that's exactly it. Most of the people I know that have started these businesses drained their life savings because they believed in this.
Yes.
They didn't drain their savings because they thought they were going to turn around and hit the lottery.
Yeah.
They drained their savings because this is something they'd seen affect their lives. They'd seen positively affect their lives. Something they wanted to share with others.
Yes.
And most of them are small businesses. And that's the thing, small businesses really have to stick together. When you have legislation and lobbying and all those really ugly things, in my opinion, they start to overshadow us.
Yeah.
They start to create legislation that harbors like what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
It's like once you get into that, there's a whole other world of
Oh,
things
yeah.
that you can talk about when you're not talking about the big picture.
yeah.
And that's why I don't like to get into politics and the news anymore so much. It's because there's too many intertanglings of arguments that don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What matters is the big picture.
Yeah.
And how do we get there? The fastest, most direct way to get there.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm finding that in this community. With the brands that are in this community, with the growers, with the dispensary owners, with all the mom and pops out there, with everybody that's getting involved, and the patients. It's becoming that.
Yeah,
It's great.
so many growers I know have retired. Retired, like we work with Recreation Plantation a lot. It's a little grower out of north of Edmond, and it's a husband and wife. And their kids come and help them sometimes, but it's a husband and wife, and they get up every morning and do this. This is their retirement,
Yeah.
because it's something they're passionate about. And those are the people we really try to do business with. It's those people that are like us, that are small and like-minded, and we try to just network together because we've got to stick together. But that's been the beauty of this Oklahoma market. The Oklahoma market, it has a low, there's a low cost to entry, but that allows more innovation.
Yes.
This right here, like if I was to develop this product, or you spend millions of dollars on this facility to produce gummies, you're stuck making gummies, but we had such a low cost to get in that we could dabble in a lot of different things and try what works best for patients.
Yeah.
And that allowed us the ability to be more innovative. And I think Oklahoma's one of the most innovative markets because that lower cost to entry, we're able to get out there and do more. And look how many people we put to work.
Yeah.
Look how many buildings that sit empty that our politicians forget about, these small towns forget about. How many buildings set empty that now that owner's getting rent? Those utilities are getting paid. It's getting a facelift. It's, I get that there's dispensaries everywhere, but if you look at the trickle down, look at that trickle down effect that's happening of the owners of the buildings, the electricians, the air conditioning guys, all of those people that are getting work.
Yeah.
This is what cannabis has done.
Well, and it can do so much more.
It can.
If the community would embrace it like it should. There are so many different aspects of this that we could get into, not just the industrial side and the farming side and all of that, but the education side. We could have community programs through vocational programs through Votex. This could be really, really good if we could get past all of that crap.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it just takes people like you, to continue.
And you guys.
And wear your shirt.
Yeah, but you guys are giving me this platform to talk about what we're doing.
Well,
and if it wasn't for people like you guys to give us these platforms to make our voices heard, You know, and that's what we need. We need people like you guys that allow us our voices to be heard, allow our wards to be written.
Yeah.
You guys allow that. And that's fantastic. We need that.
Well, I appreciate that. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
It's been fantastic.
Thank
Yeah.
you.